Let's go to inflation. That inflation data out today, it's fallen from 7.4, which were the numbers in January, these come out every month, to 6.8% today. Now, hopefully that bodes well for the upcoming RBA meeting, which of course is Tuesday. Joining me now, economist and business writer with News Corp, Terry McCrann. Terry, please give us some insight. Where do you think the RBA might be on Tuesday, given what we think and see is this fall in inflation?
Well, short answer, Peter, two short answers. One, yes, inflation did peak in the December quarter. Those numbers indicate that very clearly. And yes, the RBA will pause when we get that rate decision next Tuesday. But there are two buts, unfortunately, in all this. All the factors that were driving inflation in 2022, the sort of overflow from the COVID period, the supply disruptions, the problems with actually getting product, the war in Ukraine, the rising energy prices, all that has peaked, at least so far as those factors were driving things. But we've now got to move to our own homegrown challenges. And one is we're going to get another round of energy price increases, totally homegrown, nothing to do with Ukraine, nothing to do with the world energy situation come June and July. And secondly, the really big worry is what happens to wages. Every month when Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe has been announcing his decisions, he said, we're on a very narrow path, and the one thing that will cause us to fall off that path is if we actually start to see wages rising by significantly more than 3% a year. That's about as much as we can accommodate, 3% a year. Now, we've had the election of a government in New South Wales which says we're going to get rid of the 3% ceiling on 500,000 public servants in New South Wales. That's really an invitation for them to chase and get wage increases of 4% or more. And we've now got the Albanese federal government saying they're going to go for a full compensation for inflation wage increase for 2 million plus workers on the minimum wage. So if we actually start to see wages rising by 4 to 5% or more a year, that inflation pause will be short-lived, and that rate pause that we're going to get next week will also be short-lived.
You would have heard me just then discuss the 650,000 migrants this year and next year. I mean, these are record levels. This is bigger than, as I said, Kevin Rudd's big Australia push in 08-09. It's like the country, in terms of population, is a snake. This is the best way I can explain it to people at home. And the snake has got a basketball coming through its belly. Now, we already know people can't get rental properties. We already know with pressure, particularly those that are coming off their fixed mortgage rates, they've just got their head above water because they have a job. You throw all these extra workers into the mix, maybe their hours might get cut, they don't get their overtime, or God forbid they lose their job. This is going to be quite difficult to manage, Terry.
Well, absolutely, Peter. I mean, in the short run, it's a plus so far as inflation and wages go, because business out there is desperate for workers for all sorts of reasons that we've got a massive shortfall in supply of workers pretty much across the workforce. So this sort of immigration inflow will prevent, to some extent, that wages bubble that I was talking about. But as you indicate, Peter, these workers actually coming in, these new migrants, will actually want to be part of our community. They will actually add to demand, and not just for their personal demand, but for all the services that governments are required to provide, all the infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So in the short run, yes, it might take some of the heat out of wages pressure, inflation pressure, but long run, it's all those issues that you've raised will just keep bubbling back to the surface.